Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to call this meeting of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to order. Today is Wednesday, June 14th, 2023. The time is 9:30 a.m. With us today are Commissioners Emily Lindley and Bobby Janecka, as well as our General Counsel, and I'm John Neerman. For those making presentations, I'll ask you to please wait to begin your presentation until our General Counsel or I have asked you to begin speaking. On items where argument or discussion is allowed, we will inform speakers of their time limits. Registration has now closed, but if you'd like to address the commission on a particular item, please email agenda@tcq.texas.gov with your name, your affiliation, and the item you'd like to comment on, and we will do our best to accommodate that request. It's been a busy day for me already, and I'm out of breath because I ran over here. But I got it started on time, and I'm going to beg some forbearance here because we're going to not get straight into agency business. I want to mark another very significant milestone for this agency and take just a moment to celebrate 35 years of outstanding public service by Mr. David Bauer. For those of you who don't know, David is a licensed professional geoscientist, a UT alum. He did a stint with an oil and gas law firm before he entered public service in 1988. After doing a stint at an oil and gas law firm, I can imagine the sense of liberation it was to go do something meaningful and fun with your life. But he was first hired by the Texas Water Commission as a project manager overseeing the cleanup of leaking petroleum storage tanks. His career spanned different iterations of this agency and numerous different positions in our enforcement programs, as well as in field operations. And that's part of what makes him invaluable as a special assistant to the director of our Office of Compliance and Enforcement, the position that he currently holds. David and his wife, Linda, are the proud parents of 2 adult children and a 2-year-old grandson. David, I understand that your grandson has become a rock collector himself, so maybe he'll follow in your geoscience footsteps. But in any event, speaking on behalf of your entire TCQ family, we are grateful for the footsteps you've put in here in service of our fellow Texans. I do have a couple of things I want to present to you in just a moment, and I will invite you, only if you wish, to say a few words, but first I want to check in with my colleagues. Commissioner Lindley.
Oh, I'd love to. I don't have much to say. I didn't realize we were recognizing David today, so I'm so excited that this was a surprise. I think I got to know David best probably when I was working in Intergovernmental Relations Division, because I'd have to call OC all the time. And I feel like David and Susan Johnson were the people that were always answering questions for me or getting back to me. David's always been so kind and very responsive, and those are the best of traits to have in a public servant. So I cannot believe that you've been in public service for 35 years and that you have a 2-year-old grandson. That's crazy to me. But congratulations and thank you for everything you've done. It's been great to work with you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Janecka?
I really don't have anything to add that could improve on either of your 2 sentiments, which I agree with entirely, other than to respond to the comment that your little one, your grandchild, is maybe taking up an interest in rocks as well and may have a future in geology. My first thought was, that is so nice. And I want the subcaptions for that joke to appropriately spell nice, G-N-E-I-S-S, so that my kids will think they'll be really impressed later. Congratulations, David.
Well, David, how about this? I'll meet you at the podium and I have a plaque and a pin to present you. And if you'd like to add any comments this morning, we'd be happy to hear them. All right. Well, David, thank you again. And for those of you who came here for for actually noticed agency business. Thanks for bearing with us. Ms. Smith, with that, appreciate everybody being here. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and call the first item if we have the parties present.
We do.
Okay.
Item number 1 is the consideration of the ALJ's proposal for decision and proposed order concerning the enforcement action against Blue Sirius LLC doing business as La Caleta Estates and Blue Sirius LLC doing business as San Pedro Village. The order of presentation will begin with the ED, followed by the respondent, and then OPIC. Each party will have 5 minutes of oral argument time, and the ED may reserve time for rebuttal as the ED bears the burden of proof. So we'll begin with ED.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. On behalf of the Executive Director, I am Megan Grace with the Litigation Division. This administrative enforcement case involves 2 public water systems owned by the respondent, which produces treated water instead of producing it from a well or other water source. The Executive Director alleges the respondent failed to maintain active water purchase contracts for review, and the Executive Director recommends it pay administrative penalty and perform corrective actions. The respondent argues the rule in question does not apply to purchased water systems, contrary to the rule's explicit language, and is unenforceable as it is purportedly inconsistent with the Texas Water Code. The respondent also made other arguments in hopes of escaping its regulatory obligation under the rule at issue. It argued that PUC's appointment of a temporary manager at the time means the respondent was not in violation of the rule, that respondent and its wholesaler continued to perform under the expired contract through oral modification and ratification, and that defenses of impossibility and force majeure were relevant. The ALJ summarily dismissed all of respondent's arguments. In her proposal for decision and proposed order, the ALJ found that the respondent committed the violations as alleged and recommended that it be ordered to pay a penalty of $210 and perform corrective actions as recommended by the Executive Director. After the ALJ issued her proposal for decision and proposed order, the Executive Director submitted minor exceptions to the proposed order. In her letter responding to the ED's exceptions, the ALJ recommended sustaining the Executive Director's exceptions. The Executive Director respectfully requests that the Commission adopt and issue the ALJ's proposed order as amended by the Executive Director's exceptions. I'm here to answer any questions you may have, and I would like to reserve the remainder of our time for rebuttal if necessary.
Thank you, Ms. Grace. I have none. Commissioner Lindley, any questions? Commissioner Janeka? All right. Let's hear next from the respondent. Mr. Daniel, are you with us? Mr. Daniel, if you might double check your mic to make sure it's not on mute. Are you there? Mr. Daniel, we think you may have muted yourself. I think on our end, your line is open. Do you want to double check that? If you can hear us. We'll allow just a minute here for him to try to connect and unmute his line. Mr. Daniel, are you there? All right, let's do this. Ms. Grace, I'm not going to ask you to repeat yourself, but we're going to continue this item to later in the agenda. And Ms. Smith, I'll ask you to go ahead and call item 2 at this point.
Item number 2 is the application by Gildan Blair Blackburn for new Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Permit number WQ 0016104001. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions, and those who have signed in will be noted for the record.
So for those who are not familiar with our process, Chapter 55 of our rules lays out a two-part analysis for considering requests for contested case hearings on TIPD's applications, like the one before us. First, we consider whether the requesters have met the procedural and substantive requirements to be entitled to a contested case, and assuming that at least one requester has done so, we then determine which issues are appropriate for referral. So part 1 is about who gets a hearing. Part 2 is about which issues are referred. Requesters who are affected in a manner different from the general public and who make timely comments articulating personal concerns that are relevant and material to the application and who express those concerns in a timely hearing request are entitled to a hearing. And colleagues, we have a single request on this item. It's from the Bartlett Ranch owners. I believe they have demonstrated effectiveness. The executive director recommends denial because the request does not state a property address, but the request does describe the requester's proximity. And in their reply brief, they provided a map that demonstrates the proximity of their property. So I think they have demonstrated that element of effectiveness. We certainly prefer requests to have a street address, but it's not necessarily a prerequisite. So I would grant this request. And let me check in with you before I can go any further. Commissioner Lindley?
Yeah, this one was a little hard for me. I agree with the executive director that they should have provided an address. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It says you have to provide your name and address. But I also agree with you, Chairman, however, in that their reply did provide enough information to help me get comfortable granting them a hearing request. So they got in because of their reply for me, not necessarily the initial comment, but I'm in agreement. I would name them a party.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Janeka?
I've reached the same destination.
Great. So future requesters, please state your property address, and let's just take this issue off the table. As to the issues, colleagues, I'd refer the following: whether the draft permit complies with the Texas surface water quality standards, whether it protects surface and groundwater quality, whether it protects uses of the receiving waters, and protects aquatic life, wildlife, and the requester's livestock. I'd also refer whether the draft permit contains appropriate effluent limits, including an adequate nutrient limit, whether the commission should deny or alter the terms of the draft permit based on our regionalization policy, and whether the anti-degradation review is consistent with TCEQ rules, and finally, whether the notice requirements have been satisfied. And I'd also include an alternative dispute resolution referral on this item and allow 180 days for the hearing.
I'm in agreement on all that.
Likewise, I have a motion if you're ready. I move that we grant the hearing requests of Bartlett Ranch Brock LLC and FM 1189 LLC, deny the request for reconsideration, and refer the application to SOA for a contested case hearing on the following issues. A, whether the draft permit complies with the Texas surface water quality standards and is protective of surface and groundwater quality and uses of the receiving waters, including protection of requesters' livestock, aquatic life, and wildlife. B, whether the anti-degradation review complies with applicable regulations. C, whether the draft permit contains appropriate effluent limits, including an adequate nutrient limit in accordance with applicable regulations. D, whether the commission should deny or alter the terms and conditions of the draft permit based on the general policy to promote regional or area-wide systems under Texas Water Code Section 26.081. And E, whether the application substantially complied with the applicable notice requirements. I further move that we refer the matter to the Commission's Alternative Dispute Resolution Program to run concurrently with SOA's scheduling process, and finally to set a hearing duration of 180 days from the date of the preliminary hearing until a proposal for decision is issued.
A second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Let's pause there, and before we call the next item, see if Mr. Daniel is on the line. Are you there, sir?
I am. Can you hear me now?
We can. Good morning. I'm going to have our general counsel recall this continued item so she gets the caption out there, and then we'll ask you to go ahead and offer your comments. Ms. Smith?
I will do that, but I'm going to give everybody a chance to get back up to their seats too.
Great.
So we will return to item 1, the consideration of the ALJ's proposal for decision and proposed order concerning the enforcement action against Blue Sirius.
And Mr. Daniel, when you're ready, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is Brian Daniel, attorney for Blue Sirius in this matter. I really just have a couple comments. I think that we have made our position fairly clear in this matter. And the comments that I have, first of all, it's kind of an aside. We brought it up during the hearing and never really received kind of a very thorough answer or an answer that made sense to us, which was why was Ms. Ferguson permitted to appear at the hearing as a quote unquote observer when she is a principal at one of the wholesalers. So that was never really explained. She was allowed to sit and listen to the whole hearing while that was going on. And the second comment that I had was that this has proceeded forward to the point where we're looking at having the violations confirmed and any penalties placed against Blue Sirius for their violation of the ability to have this contract. Why is the staff not filed any kind of complaint against the wholesalers for the same offense? I mean, they are the other party to the contract. They won't contract with us. We've been trying to go around on this for quite some time, and somehow Blue Sirius has been singled out as the one bad apple in this case. That's those are my two comments that I had that I just kind of wanted to get before you guys before we move forward on the rest of this order in this case. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Just in response to your comments, I'll just ask the Office of Compliance and Enforcement, if they haven't already, to consider the wholesaler. Mr. Daniel, I don't have any questions or comments for you. Commissioner
No,
Lindley?
I don't either.
Commissioner Janeka?
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Let's go next to the Office of Public Interest Counsel. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Executive Director. My name is Eli Martinez, and I am with the Office of Public Interest Counsel for the record. As you've heard, respondent operates the La Caleta Estates and San Pedro Village water systems. The evidentiary record at the hearing established that these systems qualify as public water systems under Section 290.38, sub 71 of our rules, since they provide for water for human consumption to at least 15 service connections or serving at least 25 individuals over 60 days in a year. The respondent is therefore subject to Section 290.45 minimum water system capacity requirements. Because these systems are purchased water systems, the respondent must meet the production, storage, service pump, and pressure maintenance requirements compelled by 290.45 sub F by providing a water purchase contract with a wholesaler. The rules are not silent as to what a conforming water purchase contract looks like. A contract, as it is defined under 290.45 F1, is a signed written document or memorandum of agreement of specified terms agreeable to water purchaser and the wholesaler. While the respondent relies on a legal theory of oral ratification of previous contracts that expired on December 31st, 2014, those contracts expressly stated that they could only be modified in writing and that renewal must take place in writing prior to their end date. Further, the respondent represented to the PUC that these contracts had expired by their own terms without being renewed in 2014 and denied the existence of any ongoing contracts. Furthermore, respondent was responsible for negotiating a water purchase agreement with the wholesalers even while temporary managers were installed. The temporary managers are, by their nature, limited and temporary and are not intended to undertake long-term contractual agreements. The respondent seemed to have understood its obligation in this respect when it attended mediations with the wholesalers on several occasions between 2020 and 2021. For these reasons, OPIC supports the ALJ's findings and proposal for decision as amended, and that the ED has met its burden in these proceedings and that the proposed penalty and corrective actions are appropriate. Thank you. We're available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Appreciate your analysis. Colleagues, any questions for the Office of Public Interest Counsel?
I had
Commissioner
one.
Ginecco?
I just wonder, Mr. Martinez, is it typical that SOA proceedings are open to the public?
Generally, yes. I've not seen a person excluded due to their affiliation with another company.
That's what
They're
I thought.
generally open public hearings, and so I'm not certain that there's anything inappropriate about that.
Thank you so much for confirming.
Thank you for that. Ms. Grace, did you want to offer anything in rebuttal?
I do. I just have 2 points.
Yes.
As Mr. Martinez stated, evidentiary hearings are open to the public, and Ms. Ferguson, as representative of the wholesalers, expressed an interest in being present, and so she was allowed to do so. And in terms of the accusations against the wholesalers, the respondent still has not to date presented any evidence that there was an impossibility to enter into a contract, made those claims, but as the ALJ noted in her proposed order and proposal for decision, there's nothing in the record to support those claims.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Grace. Well, colleagues, I agree with the ALJ that the executive director has met its burden on this matter. I think that the respondent's legal arguments are inapposite or they misconstrue the law, so I'm fine with the proposed order, including the executive director's exceptions.
I'm in agreement.
Likewise.
I'll make a motion then. I move that we adopt the ALJ's proposed order with the modifications recommended by the ED's exceptions and agreed to by the ALJ's reply.
I second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item. Or I guess that's item 3 we're on now.
Item number 3 is the application by Crystal Springs Water Company Incorporated for new Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Permit Number WQ 0016116001. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions, and those who have signed in will be noted for the record.
So colleagues, again, we have a 2-part analysis for considering requests for contested cases on TIPD's permits. Part 1 is about who gets a hearing, and Part 2 is about which issues are referred. And again, requesters who are affected in a manner different from the general public and who make timely comments articulating personal concerns that are relevant and material to the application and who express those concerns in a timely hearing request are entitled to a hearing. As you know, associations can have standing if, among other factors, they identify a member who would have standing in his or her own right. On this item, colleagues, we have a single request from Bayou City Waterkeeper. In my reading, it has failed to identify a member who has standing in his or her own right. The request does identify Mr. Manchin as one of its members, and it asserts his generalized recreational and aesthetic interests in the forest and the waterways. But these interests are not distinguishable from the general public in terms of their frequency, their regularity, the particularity with which they're expressed. So in this case, these recreational and aesthetic interests don't rise to the level of giving him some unique interest different from the general public, at least none that was expressed in the request. In addition, the request does not identify how the proposed facility would impact the forest or waterways. All of that is to say I would deny this request. Commissioner Lindley.
I'm in agreement.
Likewise.
Well,
Ready for a motion?
I can make it. I move that we deny the hearing request filed by Bayou City Waterkeeper, issue TPDES permit number WQ 0016116001 to Crystal Springs Water Company Incorporated as recommended by the executive director, and adopt the executive director's response to comments.
a second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item number 4 is the consideration of the application for major amendment with renewal of TPDS permit number WQ 000408 6000 by Clean Harbor San Leon Incorporated. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions, and those who have signed in will be noted for the record.
So, colleagues, again, we have a two-part analysis. Part one is about who gets a hearing, and again, requesters must be affected in a manner different from the general public and must articulate personal concerns that are relevant and material to the application in order to be entitled to a hearing. In this case, we again have a single request, this time by the Raz Halili Trust. That request does not state any specific concerns or explain how the trust might be affected, so I would deny this request.
I agree. I can make a motion then. I move that we deny the hearing request filed by the Raz Halili Trust, issue the major amendment with renewal of TIPD's permit number WQ000408600 to Clean Harbor San Leon Incorporated as recommended by the Executive Director and adopt the Executive Director's response to comments.
I second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item number 5 is the consideration for the approval of the implementation plan for 2 total maximum daily loads for indicator bacteria in Sandy Creek and Wolf Creek. The Executive Director's staff is here to present this item.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. For the record, I am Nicole Hall with the Water Quality Planning Division in the Office of Water. With me today are Nicole Reed with the Total Maximum Daily Load Program and Aubrey Pawalka with the Environmental Law Division. Today, the Executive Director is requesting final approval of the implementation plan for 2 total maximum daily loads for indicator bacteria in Sandy Creek and Wolf Creek. The I-Plan covers 2 assessment units in 2 water bodies within Jasper and Tyler counties. A stakeholder group was formed with balanced representation of all interested parties and was tasked with providing input on the I-Plan document. The development of this document included an active public participation effort and balanced stakeholder group coordinated by TCEQ and the Texas Water Resources Institute. The success of this project is due to the collaborative efforts of the individuals and organizations that put in the time to develop this document to improve water quality in their community. The Executive Director respectfully requests approval of the implementation plan, and permission is also requested to make non-substantive and clerical corrections if needed. Thank you, and we are available to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. I have none. Commissioner Lindley, any questions? Commissioner Janeka? Ms. Smith, has anybody signed in to speak?
No one has signed in on this matter.
And Mr. Arthur, what does the Office of Public Interest think?
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. For the record, I'm Garrett Arthur, TCEQ Public Interest Counsel. OPIC supports adoption of the implementation plan for 2 TMDLs for indicator bacteria in Sandy Creek and Wolf Creek.
Thank you. I want to begin by thanking the Texas Water Resources Institute and all of the stakeholders for helping to assemble really a robust suite of management measures in this I-Plan. Ms. Reed, I also want to thank you and the TMDL staff for your great work. Despite being shorthanded, and I want to emphasize that point, you are very shorthanded with no team leader and more than a third of your positions vacant, and you're still producing great work. Thank you. Thank your team for us and keep up the great work. Commissioner Lindley, I'm ready to move forward.
I am as well.
I only want to ditto your thanks to the stakeholders and the staff on this piece. This is a forward-looking, we're making impacts on water quality the fastest we can, which is a big collective group effort, and it takes a lot of different projects and efforts, and I'm grateful for the thoughtfulness that always shows up in these I-Plans.
Yep.
And can make a motion, I think. I move that we approve the implementation plan for 2 total maximum daily loads for indicator bacteria in Sandy Creek and Wolf Creek, as recommended by the Executive Director.
I second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item 6 is consideration for the approval of the implementation plan for 2 total maximum daily loads for indicator bacteria in the Caney Creek watershed. And the Executive Director's staff is here to present this item.
Good morning again.
Good morning. Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. For the record, I am Nicole Hall with the Water Quality Planning Division in the Office of Water. With me today are Nicole Reed with the Total Maximum Daily Load Program and Aubrey Pawelka with the Environmental Law Division. Today, the Executive Director is requesting the final approval of the implementation plan for 2 total maximum daily loads for indicator bacteria in the Caney Creek watershed. The I-Plan covers 2 assessment units in 2 water bodies within Brazoria, Matagorda, and Wharton counties. A stakeholder group was formed with balanced representation of all interested parties and was tasked with providing input on the I-Plan document. The development of this document included an active public participation effort and balanced stakeholder group coordinated by TCEQ and the Houston-Galveston Area Council. The success of this project is due to the collaborative efforts of the individuals and organizations that put in the time to develop this document to improve water quality in their community. The Executive Director respectfully requests approval of the implementation plan, and permission is also requested to make non-substantive and clerical corrections if needed. Thank you, and we are available to answer any questions that you've got.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Again, I have none. Commissioner Lindley?
No?
Commissioner Janeka?
I had a question on this one, and that was really just, could you please add me to whatever inevitable public list there will be for item number 3 when they put the call out to ask for help to reach that ambitious target? I think the feral hog numbers in these different watersheds as one piece of a real factor that we do our very best to get a handle on it. I think it will, frankly, will require some community events to put attention to it. So please sign me up. Love to help when we get to that point.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Smith, has anybody signed in to speak on this item?
No one is signed in.
And Mr. Arthur, what do you think?
OPIC supports adoption of the implementation plan for 2 TMDLs for indicator bacteria in the Caney Creek watershed.
I do too. I want to thank the Houston-Galveston Area Council for their great partnership on this, as well as all the stakeholders. Thanks again to the TMDL team and to all of the staff that touched this project. Ready to move forward?
I have a motion.
All right.
I would move that we approve the implementation plan for 2 total maximum daily loads for indicator bacteria in the Caney Creek watershed as recommended by the Executive Director.
I second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next items.
And that takes us to our enforcement docket, which is items 7 through 26. The Executive Director's staff is here to present these matters.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. For the record, my name is Melissa Cordell of the Enforcement Division, and with me today are Michael Parrish, also of the Enforcement Division, and Gitanjali Yadav of the Litigation Division, representing the Executive Director. Pending before you are items 7 through 26. The total assessed administrative penalties are $529,308, with $68,746 deferred, $99,277 applied toward supplemental environmental projects, and $361,285 to the general revenue. We respectfully request approval of these items and are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Cordell. I have none. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Seeing none. Ms. Smith, has anybody signed in to speak on these items?
No one has signed in to speak on items 7 and 10, though we have representatives who are available if the commissioners have questions.
Great, thank you. Mr. Arthur, what does the Office of Public Interest Counsel make of all this?
OPIC supports adoption of these enforcement orders as presented by ED staff.
Colleagues, I do too. I'm ready to move forward.
I am as well. I'll add one last comment. I appreciate the attendance of the folks for items 7 and 10. I note that they are also both participating in our SET program on their respective items. So I'm doubly appreciative. So I'll add that and just say I move that we adopt items 7 through 26 as recommended today by the Executive Director.
A second?
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item 27 is the consideration of the adoption of amendments to 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 285 regarding on-site sewage facilities. And the Executive Director's staff is here to present this item.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. On behalf of the Executive Director, I'm Joseph Hopkins with the Program Support Environmental Assistance Division. With me is Catherine Humphreys with the Environmental Law Division, Andy Gardner, Deputy Director of the Program Support and Environmental Assistance Division, and Haya Zyman, the Deputy Director of the Occupational Licensing and Registration Division. The proposed rulemaking, which is in response to the petition filed by the Texas On-Site Wastewater Association in November of 2020, would amend Chapter 285 to better protect public health and the environment by revising the existing rules for consistency with current industry, terminology, and standards. The proposed rules would also implement House Bill 1680 of the 87th Legislative Session, which allows certain leased portions of tracts of land owned by the federal government to be considered as separate tracts of land for the purposes of Chapter 285. The proposed rulemaking was published in the December 30th, 2022 issue of the Texas Register, 47 Texas Registry 8898. The Executive Director conducted a public hearing for the proposed amendments for Chapter 285 on January 30th, 2023. During the hearing, one comment was received, and it has been addressed in the preamble of the adopted rules. In addition to requesting permission to publish the adopted rules, the Executive Director requests permission to make non-substantive changes to comply with Texas Register formatting requirements. Staff respectfully recommends approval of the rulemaking on 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 285, on-site sewage facilities. Thank you. We are available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins. I certainly appreciate TOA's role in helping regulate their own industry. They've been a great stakeholder, and I want to thank them for their petition on this. Just to be clear, credit where credit's due, I think this is in response to two petitions, including one by B&J Wakefield. Is that, I have that straight? Okay. I just want to make sure I had my facts straight, and I wasn't sure if I heard that. Colleagues, any questions or
No?
comments for ED staff? Ms. Smith, is anybody signed in to speak on this item?
No one signed in on this one.
Thank you. And what does the Public Interest Counsel's office have to say?
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and the Executive Director's attorney and staff. I'm Pranjal Mehta on behalf of OPIC. Our office has reviewed the proposed rulemaking. OPIC agrees that the proposed rulemaking would amend Chapter 285 to better protect public health and the environment by revising the existing rule for consistency with industry terminology and standards. Therefore, OPIC supports adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mehta. Colleagues, any thoughts, comments, questions?
No, I'm
Okay.
ready to move forward.
I am too. Again, thanks to TOA and B&J Wakefield for their petitions on this. I think these are appropriate, meaningful amendments. I understood and appreciated the comment about the riser height. I think we landed in an appropriate place on that. And I think I'm ready to hear a motion.
I would move that we adopt the amendments to 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 285, on-site sewage facilities as recommended by the Executive Director.
I second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item number 28 is the consideration of the adoption of proposed amended Section 5.3 and new Section 5.15 of 30 Texas Administrative Code regarding advisory committees and groups. The Executive Director's staff is here to present this item.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. My name is Tammy Mitchell. I'm with the Office of Legal Services, stepping in for Mr. Redmond and appearing on behalf of the Executive Director. The Executive Director respectfully requests that you adopt amended 30 Texas Administrative Code Section 5.3 and new Section 5.15. This rulemaking partially implements the Sunset Advisory Commission's Management Action Recommendation 1.6, detailed in that Commission's staff report. The adoption of these rules will continue the existence of 7 advisory committees until December 31st, 2032. Providing the state and rule avoids the automatic statutory abolishment of these advisory committees under Texas Government Code Section 2110.008. A public hearing was held on the proposed rules at which no comments were received, and 1 written comment letter was received. No changes were made to the proposed rules. The Executive Director respectfully requests your approval on the adoption of these rules and permission to make non-substantive corrections if necessary to comply with Texas Register requirements. Thank you for your consideration. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. I have none. Commissioner Lindley?
No?
Commissioner Janeka?
No, thank you.
Ms. Smith, has anyone signed in to speak?
No one signed in.
And Ms. Mehta, is this your item as well?
Yes. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and the Executive Director's Attorney. I'm Pranjal Mehta on behalf of OPIC. Our office has reviewed the rulemaking and OPIC supports adoption. OPIC recognizes that a need still exists for these advisory committees and the need would continue for the projected 10 years. OPIC agrees that the public would benefit from the advice and input from the advisory committee's business, environmental, and technical expertise and experience with respect to matters in the Commission's jurisdiction. Therefore, OPIC supports adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree, colleagues, and I appreciate the Sunset Advisory Commission's recommendation on this. I'm ready to adopt this rule.
Just on this one, though. I am too.
It's a mixed bag.
We love all of our sunset discussions. I move that we adopt amended Section 5.3 and new Section 5.15 of 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 5, Advisory Committees and Groups, as recommended by the Executive Director.
A second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next items.
That takes us to items 29 through 31, which are the quadrennial rule reviews for chapters 10, 205, and 326 of the Texas Administrative Code, Title 30. And the Executive Director's staff is here to present these matters.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. On behalf of the Executive Director, I am Gwen Rico with the General Law Division, and with me today is Kathy Humphreys from the Environmental Law Division. Pending before you are items 29, 30, and 31, the adopted rule reviews of Chapters 326, General Permits for Waste Discharges, 30 TAC Chapter 10, Commission Meetings, and 30 TAC Chapter 205, Electronic Reporting, Electronic Transmission of Information by Commission. As required by Texas Government Code Section 2001.039, Executive Director staff conducted rule reviews of these chapters to determine if the need for the rules within these chapters continue to exist. The proposed notices of the reviews for 30 TAC chapters 10, 205, and 326 published in the February 10th, 2023 issue of the Texas Register with a 30-day comment period for all chapter reviews. 3 comments for Chapter 326 were received during the public comment period for these reviews. These comments were reviewed and determined to be outside of the statutory and regulatory purpose of a rule review and will be considered when the rule is next substantively changed. Based on the reviews of these chapters, the Executive Director has determined that the reasons for the rules in Chapters 10, 205, and 326 continue to exist. In conclusion, we respectfully recommend approval of the adoption of the rule reviews of 30 TAC Chapters 10, 205, and 326. Additionally, staff requests authorization to make non-substantive revisions necessary to comply with the Texas Register requirements.
Thank you. The project managers and attorneys assigned to each of these chapters are here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Rico, and I want to thank you for your analysis of the comments on Chapter 306. It saves me from having to say it. I don't have any other questions or comments. Commissioner Lindley?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Janeka?
I want to say thanks for the clarification and revising the backup on the last quad item to clarify that those comments will be considered when appropriate. I think that's a good assurance to the public in what our rulemaking is always at best a very opaque process. So thanks.
I disagree. I think it's pretty, I mean, we're a bureaucracy. Regulations are complicated. It takes some work to penetrate them, but we are transparent. Public has access. So respectfully, I'm going to push back gently on that notion. All right, I think we're ready to hear Mr. Martinez's thoughts.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Executive Director. I'm Eli Martinez with the Office of Public Interest Counsel for the record. Our office has considered these rule reviews for Chapters 10, 205, and 326, listed as items 29 through 31 in today's agenda, and we agree that the reasons for initially adopting those rules continue to exist, and we therefore support readoption. Thank you. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Colleagues, any additional questions or comments?
No?
Okay. Are we
I'll
good?
just note that no one signed in
Okay, thank you.
also to comment.
I have a motion, I guess, if we're to
Yeah,
that point.
yeah,
I don't
thank
want to
you.
cut y'all off. But,
Yeah.
well, then I would move that we adopt the rule reviews and readopt the rules in 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapters 10, 205, and 326 without amendment as recommended by the Executive Director.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item number 32 is our public comment session. At this time, we have no one signed in to speak, but we can unpause the line and give anyone in the room an opportunity to step up.
Thank you. Is there anyone joining us virtually who'd like to offer a comment? All right, hearing none and seeing no one approach the podium, Ms. Smith, I'll ask you to please call the next items.
The next items are for closed session, and the commission will meet in closed session in Building E, Room 211S at, let's say, 10:20 a.m. as permitted by the Open Meetings Act, including Texas Government Code Sections 551.071 and 551.074, to take up and consider matters pursuant to items number 33 through 36 as posted and noticed.
The time is 10:18 a.m. We are in recess.
1, 2. Test.
All right. Here we go. We are back at 10:47 a.m., having just met an executive session. We would like to take action, so I'm going to ask Ms. Smith to please call the appropriate caption.
So begin with the fact that the commission met in room 211S of Building E for closed session from 10:21 until 10:45 a.m. on item numbers 33 through 36, as posted and noticed. No action was taken on items 33 or 36, but the commission will be taking action on items 34 and 35 regarding appointment of ED and duties of specific agency employees.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Colleagues, as we discussed, I want to begin with an expression of deep appreciation for Aaron Chancellor's leadership of this agency during a very challenging legislative session. Unfortunately, there is a statutory bar, a 6-month bar to her continuing her service as interim executive director, and she has reached that deadline. I also regret that we're not quite yet in a position to name a permanent executive director. So I'm very pleased that another outstanding agency leader, Kelly Keel, has agreed to take over as a new interim executive director. And with that, I would like to move to appoint Kelly Keel as interim executive director beginning June 15th, 2023.
I second.
Oh, go ahead.
I second the motion.
Our motion has been made and seconded twice. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries, and I believe that concludes our business. Ms. Smith, is there anything else before we adjourn?
Nope.
The time is 10:49 a.m. We are adjourned.